Bayonets, comrades. This is Chief Guard of the Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts Mike Tuman and Bob Lukowski. Noon to 1, but today noon to 2 on WRMN 1410 AM, the Fox River Valley Media Network. Streaming on WRMN's 1410.com internet webpage. Studio number here is 847-931-1410. You can text us at 505-926-1410 or hit us up in the YouTube live channel. So at the WRMN's 1410's channel. So we're up there and we can make comments on that. My brain's getting squished. My hat's a little too tight. All right. So first of all, Memorial Day. So I want everyone to realize that we're remembering everyone that has passed in the service members that have passed, and service members that passed in the line of duty or on active duty or in any service whatsoever, service to the country whatsoever. So it's a very solemn day on Monday. We will be out there post 104, as many Legionnaires will. Also, our friends at the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, will be out at many of the cemeteries or civic areas doing laying wreaths, raising the flag, playing taps for those of our brothers and sisters that have gone before us. Also, you may see out there guys in Legion hats and red, orange, or yellow vests, safety vests, carrying various types of receptacles for donations, and we'll be handing out. They're asking for donations, in exchange for which you get a poppy symbolizing that you have donated to veterans groups and groups that support veterans. So they're not just people out there down on their luck looking for, a couple bucks to buy a sandwich or something. Those are actual veterans out there collecting, or their friends collecting for veteran organizations. So if you have some cash in your car and you see one of these guys or gals out there, give them a few bucks, because it goes to help their post and it goes to help the veterans system. As always, this is a Veterans Radio call-out show, so if you're a veterans organization and you have something going on, like a movie night, like a car show, like a fundraiser or a memorial for someone, give a call in. Our number here again is 847-931-1410. We'll put you on the air, right? Or you could text us in at 505-926-1410. Sometimes people think their voices sound kind of silly over the air or over recording. I mean, I don't like recording myself because I hear my voice and I just say, man, what a goof. But if you text it in, I'll read it out for you. All right. So, Bob, got anything to say?
Well, welcome everyone, and hope you have a nice Memorial Day weekend. And don't forget, say a little prayer for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, so we can have the freedom we enjoy today.
Yeah. Unless when you're in the service, you don't get as many freedoms.
That's true.
You have the least freedom in the world next to prison, all right? Sometimes the service feels worse than prison, but they don't pay you as well in prison as they pay in the service. But every once in a while, you get a weekend off, an unchaperoned weekend off, and give up your freedoms. We give up our freedoms to protect everyone else's freedoms. So one of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago was claim sharks and the law on the book in Illinois that says right now, if you make a VA claim, so give an explanation for people that may have not listened in before. You have the Veterans Administration, and when you have disability, it's somewhat like Social Security disability, but it's for veterans. So if you have something that happened to you in the military, you can apply for VA disability claim. Something that happened to you, you lost the use of your arm because you got hit by a truck, or other things. You lost your hearing. A lot of guys more recently have the burn pit registry, where they have lost a lot of lung function, which is pretty bad. It's hard for you to breathe. It's hard for you to work. So the Veterans Organization, the VA is set up to pay disability. All right. And they pay you a certain amount, and you could find online how much you get, and they base it on percentage. Like the lowest percentage where you actually collect the payment is 30%, I believe. And the other percentage is if they give you a percentage, then you're entitled to medical care at the VA hospitals, right? And it's almost on a sliding scale sometimes, right? So they had these guys in there like that advertise to people. It's like my money and I want it now. You know, you had those legal firms out there and those investment firms that buy up people's annuities. They buy up people's, organized payments, and they pay them a chunk of money up front, and then they sign over the contract to them. And a lot of time it's predatory because people are desperate, or people are actually, the reason they put it in a structured settlement is because the people are not able to handle their finances on their own. Right? They don't have anyone to help them with that. So they put them in a structured settlement. Maybe their original lawyer put them in a structured settlement so that by month to month they would have enough to live off of or to make their life a little better. But they see these advertisements on TV and they're like, oh, I get one big chunk of change because according to an insurance settlement, I got $1 million. But they put in a structured thing for $1,000, like maybe, $5,000 for 200 months, right? Expecting the guy to live 20 years or whatever, but 5,000 for 200. And the guy sells the whole thing off for like $750,000. But he gets it up front, and now the company is getting paid the annuities on that. So he lost money up front. These guys did nothing but have him set it over and give him a big chunk of cash, and they made a huge chunk of interest on it, preying on someone that, everyone's equal and everything, and if you're adult, there's a sucker born every minute, right? But I think when you prey on those people, you're predatory. You're a predator. In a bad way, not in a good way. All right? And the same thing happens with the veterans organizations. Not veterans organizations, with the veterans. So you got a lot of veterans there that are desperate. They may have traumatic emotional state, traumatic intellectual state, what they call TBI, maybe traumatic brain injury, and they apply for disability. And the forms can be very intimidating. I mean, any government form. Try to do taxes where you're going to itemize, all right? It can be very intimidating. You have to sit down there, have all your stuff together, go step by step, read the instructions 40 times before you actually understand it, because I think they intentionally make it misguiding to people. I mean, I've been doing my own taxes and everything, and I'm not a dumb guy. I don't consider myself a dumb guy. I might sound a little dumb, but I don't consider myself dumb. But they have these claim sharks now, and they say, we'll fill out the paperwork for you. We'll help you with this. We'll tell you what to do. We'll take you to the VA there, and we'll get you as much disability as we can, and you just got to sign over part of that disability to us. It's not an upfront payment like, here, give us $5,000 and we'll do this all for you. They want a percentage because they figure if you're a young guy coming out of the military with a serious injury, you could still live another 60 years. And if they collect $1,000 a month for you living 60 years for helping you with paperwork, which takes them maybe 12 hours at the most, right? That now you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for this service in the long run. But they prey on people that are desperate for this. So what the state of Illinois said is they said, if you're going to operate in the state of Illinois, you have to tell these people that you're soliciting that everything you do is available to them for free. And you got to tell them where they can get it for free. All right. Not only do you have to tell them that, you have to give it to them in writing and have them sign it. So as soon as you tell them all that, hey, I want $1,000 a month for the rest of your life, or you go get this stuff done for free, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to go get it done for free. So it doesn't help them anymore. It's not attractive to them anymore to operate in Illinois, although there's no law against them doing that, because they're always going to find one or two people that are going to think that just because they're paying for it, they're getting better service. And I, luckily enough, because having been a former military intelligence warrant officer and a Chicago police detective, I'm really good at filling out forms, really good. And having done taxes like that, I'm good at that too, right? So reading government regulations, reading Army regulations, police department regulations, ordinances, laws, the Title 10 of the U.S. Code, all the U.S. codes. I'm not a lawyer, all right? Here, I got the, I'm not a lawyer. My friend Paul is a Juris Doctor, all right? My other co-host, Paul Burvid. But here's the disclaimer. The information on this show is for informational purposes. Oh, I'd like, okay, see, that's what a great writer I am. Information about the show is for informational purposes, all right? And should not be construed as legal advice on any subject matter. I'm not giving legal advice. The views put forward on this show are the opinions of the hosts, Michael Tuman, Paul Burvid, their guest callers, and not necessarily those of our WRMN 1410 AM producers here at the Laos on the show. So I was able to do it without a veteran service officer. The veteran service officers are the ones that are trained by the VA, certified by the VA to do all this work for free. But I went and did it myself. Everyone was shocked, all right? But it went through a process. Now, Bob, you filed for a disability, right?
Yes, I did. I went to Hines Hospital. I met with the VSO there. I didn't know what I was walking into. Very knowledgeable VSO officer sat me down, asked me a few questions, helped me through the process, and was very helpful. And I ended up getting a disability rating of 70%.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Veterans, any veteran. Now, there's a lot of guys that are doing pretty well, all right? A lot of guys doing pretty well out there. A lot of older guys that were drafted, they did their 2 years, they got out, and they never wanted anything to do with the military or the government again, all right? And they have insurance through their job, through their retirement, all right? They're doing well, and they consider going to the VA for disability or the VA for service. They consider that like going to county hospital, all right? And that shouldn't be the case. Every veteran out there should register at the VA, every single one. If you only did one day, all right, one day on active duty, and you got your leg broken by a truck or something, stepping out of the cattle truck, right? Stepping out of the cattle truck, your leg broken 14 places, and they said, oh, we're putting you out, right? You did your 1 day on active duty, go file with the VA, all right? Go file and register with the VA. Even though you're a billionaire now, go file and register with the VA. Because for every person registered at the VA, they have to fund for that many people. All right, so you increase the VA's funding. You say, oh my God, it's just government waste. It's just, you're providing something for the servicemen that have done their time. You're more likely to have a good military, a good recruiting pool if they see that after they do their service that they're well taken care of, right? That promises are kept to them, all right? That the promises that were made were kept to them, all right? Which was, medical service and everything if you needed it. So if you haven't registered for the VA and you're a veteran, go out and do it. Now, Bob, when we first went down to the Hines there and we tried to get you a medical card, was that pretty easy? I was in and out. The first time I went to apply for my VA health care, I was told no. So here's the thing. Bob was a veteran, and he was told no on the health care or free health care, no on the health care, because he had a higher income level than the threshold, all right? So he didn't need it. So let me interrupt. It was the high income level. I'm retired, but my wife is still working, so income was still high. But I also was covered by a group medical insurance through my wife's employment. So that was two things against me right there. Just because they didn't give him his ID card, his VA ID card, all right, doesn't mean he wasn't registered. So he was registered with the VA. He just wasn't registered for the benefits, but they still have to fund the VA because later on your situation changed, did it not?
It did. So,
It did.
but the main thing is to get registered, whether they accept you in or not, because that adds to our veterans numbers for our healthcare system.
And then it'll make you, there's other benefits other than medical benefits that the VA authors, that the VA offers, not authors, offers. All right, so there's there's a benefit, if you did your time in the service, then you have your VA loan guarantee. Now that means you don't have to throw down a down payment. So when I bought my house, all right, $200,000, I needed a $40,000 to get the 20% down payment. I didn't have that much cash in hand, so I used my VA benefit there, and they covered the 20% down payment. So I didn't need the down payment at that time. I didn't have to pay for mortgage insurance, right? However, if you're a mortgage broker or a real estate agent, you know that the prices on a VA loan are, the percentage is a little higher and they charge you points. But there are benefits available to you other than the medical benefits.
Yes, I also use the homeowner's benefit through the VA. I also went to use the education benefits that were given to me. I went to school for welding. I went to school for auto body mechanic, engine rebuilding, which never got a job in those industries, but it helped greatly with my hot rod hobbies.
Yeah. Okay. I was reading, I'm down there. No, so, all right, so one of the things when you set up for your disability, again, I'm not a VSO officer, but the first thing you have to get is register with the VA, which means you have a 214 or DD 220 or a DD, DD 220 or the National Guard Bureau form. So, hey, if you know what the National Guard Bureau form is, I got two of those, but I don't remember the numbers.
215?
No, the 215's, okay, so.
Updated?
So 214 is your discharge papers. You have to do in excess of 90 days in a row to get a DD 214, right? There are some exceptions to that, all right? Like when I made warrant officer, so I did 31 days in a row, but when we commissioned to warrant officer, we had to be separated from the Army as enlisted and then brought on as warrant officers. So they gave us a DD 214, separating us from the Army at our enlisted rank and bringing us back. Then we were brought back on immediately as warrant officers. So that was only a 30-day one. For most part, if you do less than 90 days, you get a DD 220. So when they say we need your DD 214, a DD 220 is for less than 90 days. All right, now the DD 215, and these are Department of Defense forms. So for the uninitiated, a DA form is a Department of the Army form, and a DD form is a Department of Defense form, and an NG form is a National Guard Bureau form. So they have all these. An AR form is an Army Reserve form. So they have all these forms, and they're listed online. You get them right off the government. But when you get these forms, the DD 214, if there's a mistake on them, like a lot of times at the lower enlisted ranks, when you're being mass demobilized from a mobilization, you're all coming back from Iraq at the same time and you're at Fort Benning. You're at Fort Benning or you're coming through Camp Atterbury and they're shoving you through and they print out your 214 and say, here, sign it here. And you're so anxious to get that thing that you sign it without reading it and you realize that some of the things are wrong in there, right? So now you got to go back and apply for a 215, a DD 215. Now that's not automatic, and that's got to go through an approval process. But there's a way to do that through used to be through the National Archives, but now it goes straight through your branch. So if you're Army, go to Army branch to get that done. If you're Navy, you go to Navy branch. Right. So you get those forms together. You get all the medical forms that you kept, right? Maybe a lot of guys don't keep them, but they should be on file somewhere because we had the National Archives Act. which said that the U.S. government has to maintain a paper copy of every form they ever put out. So if you have the originals and you don't have copies, all right, in storage, all right, and you take the originals and you destroy them, you're in violation of the National Guard thing, the National Archives thing. So you can order these things through the National Archives. You can order through your branch, your medical records, all right? When you go fill out the forms at the VA, right, you sign a release so that they could get your medical records from the Army. Right?
Correct.
You signed that.
Yes.
So there's a form there for that. Now it's getting even easier in the future because the VA is sharing computer space of its medical records with the Department of Defense. So they will have access automatically to your Department of Defense medical records. The VA will. All right. So now, if you have injuries that aren't, a lot of guys, they get some pretty bad, bruised up, beat up, maybe get a concussion. They don't even go on medical for it, right? But you could get a thing called a buddy letter. So guys that were deployed with you, guys that were there and saw the injury, they're basically giving you a
testimonial.
Testimonial for it. And these things all go up, right? Your VSO, veteran service officer, makes sure that all the forms are straightened out. He makes sure that you're wording your narratives correctly, all right? And then it's sent up and it goes for review, all right, to the, what's the name of those guys? The raters. So they assign a rating for your disability. Like one of the if you have tinnitus caused by an Army, a lot of guys driving trucks. We're close. Yeah.
We got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. So a lot of guys driving trucks or listening to radio and everything to get tinnitus. That's like, they have a scale there and they're like, what's your hearing loss? Like, okay, 30% disability on that. All right. The raters give it, but sometimes the raters don't get this stuff right because one of the things in the VA now is these raters are complaining that they're not being trained, that they're given a checklist, but they don't have any, they're not service members. Some of them may have been in the service, but some of them have never been in the service. They're just given this job and they're said, here's a checklist, this is what we want to see, and this is a guideline for ratings, right? So they're like, helicopters, stuff like that. They've never been in a military helicopter or military truck, so they have no clue. All right. So let's say stuff gets denied. Now there's a second step where the VSO will come in and he will help you do an appeal to that. An appeal, right? And he will word it like what do you mean? This guy worked, as a crew chief on helicopters and everything. He was constantly inundated with this sound, with this constant vibrations and everything that affected his hearing. You're saying it didn't? We got documented hearing loss. You're saying it didn't happen in service. He got out of the service last week. All right, so when we come back, we're going to talk more about the VA and the process and why you should apply for this. 931-1410, or you could text us in on the magic Google Voice number coming to us out of New Mexico. So all the way up from New Mexico, 505-926-1410. So we got anyone out there? No one's.
We do have one here. This person writes, when I was in, we were promised free dental care. They took that away.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so am I not seeing that?
You got to go to the side of the page. You'll see it under the messages.
Oh, all right, because I got, oh, here we go.
It's the one at the top.
Oh, Hector Soto? No, I'm not going to give you a name. I'm not going to give this.
I can just read them if you want me to.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, I got it there. Okay. Yeah, you know what? Same thing happened. All right, so we're deploying to Bosnia, and I had kind of a bad tooth there. And they said, listen, we don't fix any of the teeth. And this is all independent on whatever dentist you got through when you were going to the deployment process. So they said, if it's just bad, we're just going to pull it. So they had to quarter this tooth, right? I'm sitting there and I got a nurse and a doctor on the dentist on my chest with a pair of pliers, finally get it out, right? They're like, and the dentist, this is the guy, this is bedside manner, right? He looks at the thing and goes, that was a pretty good tooth. We could have shaved that one. And I'm like, well, put it back. Oh, too late. They quartered it. So, they tell me I got this big gap in my jaw there. And they said, okay, put some gauze in there. And they go, no smoking for 3 days. And they gave me some stuff to clean it out. As soon as I got out of the chair, I walked out of the building and I lit up a Camel. I was like, but, all right. So if you got at the VA, if you get a 100% disability or a dental disability, all right, they will give you dental treatment. So let's say, your teeth got knocked out by my dad's teeth. He hit a roof in Germany in the 50s. He was a paratrooper, and it knocked out a bunch of his teeth because you hit those tile roofs, right? So he had a dental disability there. And so they will cover your dental if you got 100% or if you have a disability rating on your dental of like 10, 20, 30%, they'll give you that. Also, when you get demobilized, all right, on your 214, it'll annotate whether dental work was provided to you within 90 days of discharge. All right. So after that, you go to the VA for 2 years to get your dental. So after you're discharged. So the either you're 100%, you got a dental disability, or you got discharged. And yeah, you're correct. They will not provide dental treatment for life. In fact, in the reserves, they have your you get TRICARE. So you could be in the reserves, which is a great recruiting tool to keep people in the reserves. You get this medical for like $32 a month, TRICARE. So you're covered. Who else gets insurance for $32 a month, right? It was when I retired from my job, having that available to me because I was still in the Army Reserve was the reason I stayed in the Army Reserve for $32 a month medical coverage. You could also buy dental coverage if you stayed in the reserves. But yeah, the promises the recruiters made is when I joined back in the 80s, all right? When I joined in the 80s, you pretty much didn't get the dental coverage unless you're on active duty. So I hope that kind of answers your question that we got here on the text in. So I'm glad whoever's listening in there, thank you for your question. So, Bob, did you apply for any dental disability?
I did not.
Right. So I did because, like I said, a couple teeth. And here's the thing, right? Some of the stress that I was under, I was grinding my teeth really bad. I was grinding them so bad that I pulled my jaw muscles. Now, having been a swimmer and a lifeguard in the past, I was prone to ear infections. So I thought this was just some bad ear infections. And I had to go to the prison doctor in Bagram because there's too long of a wait, And I says, hey, I got these ear infections. You think you'd give me some antibiotics and some 800 milligram Motrins for it? And he goes, well, maybe it's not your ear. And he feels my jaw muscle. He goes, oh, yeah, you pulled your jaw muscle, so it's pinching those nerves. But that had ground my teeth pretty bad and loosened them up. I was grinding so bad, they were loose, right? So I applied for this disability, and I go to a civilian dentist and he has never been in the service either, right? He didn't know any of this stuff. But he was evaluating me, right? For my dental work, and he asked me, well, what's your dental disability? I says, well, they pulled like 3 of my teeth and they're loose from grinding my jaw and everything, and I got pain in them. And he's like, well, and all he was doing was selling his business, all right? He says, if I get to the VA and I get dental insurance through the VA, right, and you get dental insurance through, like I said, the TRICARE, right? If you get this dental insurance, right, well, you come back to me, right, and the VA will cover it. And then he gives me no disability. I'm like, well, how am I going to come back to you with the VA when you wouldn't give me the disability? Because I told you I didn't know what my disability was. You tell me. I can't, yeah, okay, I go to work, but I'm in constant pain with my teeth and I can't chew and everything else. Since then, I do not go to sleep without a night guard in. I don't even take a nap without a night guard in because I'm prone to grinding. So, yeah, but you have to specifically say what your disability is. And maybe if I had a VSO officer to help me with filling out those forms, I would have got the dental disability. It didn't matter, though, because 100% you get dental coverage anyways. So any of you out there had any bad experiences with filling out for disability with the VA, call in and let us know. Everyone happy holiday. Yeah. So, Bob, tell me about your worst experience with filling this stuff out or doing the process.
Well, there was really no bad experience. I had a very good experience. I used a VSO officer at Hines Hospital. If you feel that you have a service-connected disability or you have one, you can go to Hines, Jesse Brown, or Level. Also, there's VSOs on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, at the Frisbee Senior Center in Des Plaines on 52 East Northwest Highway, and they'll be happy to welcome you and help you out with your disability claims.
So if you want, you could go to va.gov. All right, it's 5 whole letters or 6, 2 letters, a punctuation mark, and 3 more letters. Yeah, and I love the way Matt he's right on top of these things. And there it is on the screen there. All right, and you can get you go to the right tab, and you can search for a veteran service officer in your area. So I just typed in my zip code. This was about an hour ago. Typed in my zip code, and it gave me like pages of them within 50 miles of where I live. So not only do they work at the VAs, right? Some of them work, like Lighton Township has a guy working out of their place. I'm sure Kane County has a couple of them up here, all right? Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of you finding them and making an appointment with them and going to see them, all right? Like I said, it's all available for free. The easiest way to find one of these guys, if you're close to a VA, boom, go in there. I want to talk to a veteran service officer. They'll tell you right where to go, right? But it's not just the VA that pays for them. It's the American Legion pays for some of them. The VFW pays for them, all right? The Disabled American Veterans pays for them, right? There's one I saw, the Catholic War Veterans has a VSO working for them that pays their salary. Like Cook County is currently in the process of hiring some, right? And they're going to be trained and certified, and Cook County will be paying for them, all right? So they're paid to help you with these service claims. So there's already people out there. You don't have to go and pay someone to do it for you unless you feel, well, it's up to you. I say that the veteran service officers are out there. All right. Now, one of the things I heard about, which there's fraud, waste, and abuse and everything, and ghost claims. All right, ghost claims. So some of these claim shark agencies solicit people, all right, that have never had a claim and say, I don't have a disability, I'm fine, I don't need anything, but they solicit them to come in and file these claims, and then they create a narrative, all right, a narrative, not necessarily the truth, right, a narrative, and they file claims for these people, and now they start collecting claims. They start collecting the money because it's not factual that they have a disability. It was the narrative that went into it. And that seems to be a problem with these other organizations. But how do you prove fraud? How do you narrow it down to who's entitled to this, who isn't entitled to that, what happened to you, That's why the process takes a while. They just can't say, nice guy, and I'm talking to him. I says, he's filing, and I says, you have to get documentation, either your medical records, the doctor's note, right? The doctor saying, well, this is an older injury. It probably happened like when you were in the service, a broken arm, right? I broke my arm in the service, but it never got, for some reason, for whatever reason, there's no documentation for it. But the doctor comes in and says, according to this break, according to the growth chart on the bone and everything else, this happened during these years, and like forensic thing, right? And during those years, he was in the service. So you have to get documentation, you have to get proof, you have to get buddy letters and everything.
Yeah,
and
So just when you're working with your VSO, it's not that you go see your VSO and your VSO does 100% for you. There is some work that's required on your part. You need to write up for each claim a brief paragraph about what happened, where it happened, and what's your disability as of today. Also, what is actually happening. So I had a rash from my neck to my ankles for a whole year back in 2021. That put me on lifelong medicine injections into my thigh. So I had to, you have to go to your civilian doctors. You have to pull your medical records. It's best that you don't hand them over to your VSO, that you go to va.gov and you upload that information yourself and make sure that your civilian doctor also submits those documents as well. So the more information you can gather and give them, the better off your chances are.
Oh, yeah. Now, online, that's how I did everything, right? And so I kind of duplicated efforts, too, because not only did I upload it online, but I mailed it. So I'm like, where do I need to think? So it's uploaded online. I got, you can check it because then you'll see what's online there. All right. And if you're not very computer savvy, right, and this stuff is intimidating you, sometimes the VSO officers will help you, but you know what? They're there for guidance. They're not there to write you the magic words to get you to disability, because that would be more of a ghost claim, right? Because that's not the words coming from you. They'll question you, like they'll interview you and say, well, what happened, and, well, how come you couldn't work? Where's the pain at? And they'll guide you, but they're not responsible for what you put there, right? When you sign that form, that's supposed to be your information, not the veteran service officer's information, not the claim shark's information, all right? Not a professional novel writer's information. That's your information. You're signing off on it. All right. So you have to do some of the work yourself, but there's help out there, right? In the end, it's you signing your tax form. All right. It's you saying, yes, this is true to my knowledge. And then down and below, it says professional tax, tax filer filled out this information, but you're still signing off on that because it's your responsibility to make sure that tax guy isn't claiming, the 23 children next door as your dependents. Yay, you saved me all this money, but he falsified your form, right? But it's your obligation to double check that. You cannot fall back on, well, I had a professional tax guy doing it. They only want his signature so that when this all goes to crap, they could say, did this guy lie to you or did you lie? Right?
Right.
So these VSOs, veteran service officers, again, I'm glad you brought that up, Bob. They're people, right? They're people. So like everything else, you can't just give them the paperwork and expect it to be done. Anyone that's been in the military or in the Army Reserve knows that you just don't have hand it off to the AGR guy and expect him to do his job. You got to walk in there. You got to hand it to him. You got to call him the next day. You got to double check on it. You got to constantly be on him, giving him reminders until he hates your guts because you're constantly over his shoulder, right? And then you get the job done. I'm not saying all VSOs are that way. Everyone's different. You might get a great one, but you need to follow up. You need to be the person to these guys. You need to be personable with them, right, to get that stuff done for you. They're out there, all right? They're good guys out there. Again, research, time, and patience, and get it through the system. And what's the worst they can say, Bob?
No.
No. All right. And if they say no, what can you do?
You can appeal.
You can appeal it, and that might take time. However, right, there's one form that you fill out with your intent to file, all right? Your intent to file form. All right, that's the first one. And
So that locks you in.
that locks you in. All right, so you got 2 years to get this stuff done. To submit your form, you have 2 years to submit your initial form. But when you start collecting your disability, it goes back to that intent to file when you filed in. Or when you first file, when you first put in your paperwork, all right? So it might take them 9 months. It might take them a year to give you a finding. But if they do give you a finding, they go back to the day when you filed your paperwork, right? Even though they might ask you for more forms, more information. It goes back to your original day, and they pay you the back pay on that.
Yes.
All right? So it's a matter of patience, all right? It's a matter of honesty. It's a matter of telling them, and your disabilities, and it's there. For those veterans that feel that they don't need the disability payments, that they don't want them, or that, they don't feel it's in their best interest, or it's not up to their principles. Everyone has principles. That's all right with you. All right, that's all right. I respect that, right? Now, a lot of guys at our Dunkin' Donuts veterans say, man, you're leaving money on the table.
Right.
You're leaving money on the table. You're leaving money on the table, all right? And, well, maybe they want to leave it on the table. But even if you're going to leave that money on the table, register.
Yep, that's what got me motivated.
Register, all right? For your other veterans. For the guys that, a lot of guys never had disabilities, but trauma. They call it PTSD, old days shell shock, right? But listen, it's trauma, it's anxiety, right? It's unbelievable, mental trauma. It makes you you have a hard time dealing with people, everything else. A lot of these guys are out there that that won't even file because it's just been, their brain, they're not working on that level. They don't realize, Now, one of the things, I got a new guy into our post, real nice guy, and he kind of said, he's honestly, I said, well, what do you think? He says, I think you guys are all there just to apply for disability. I says, well, that's your opinion, but not really. I think you saw one meeting where we were talking about that.
Correct.
Because we talk about other things, right? So now there's a misconception I'm saying about joining your local veterans group. And we're getting towards the end of the year now, and they're all about numbers in the American Legion. Do you got your 100%? Do you got your 100%? Well, you had 4 guys die, you got to replace them. Oh, I've got to replace them. I got to go out and find what are you doing for me to replace them? Well, they don't care at that point. They just want the numbers. So when they go to national, when they go to Congress and they said, I've got 2 million veterans in my organization, and this is what they want. So Congress listens to us, all right? Now, we're a non-political organization. We're not supposed to endorse or not endorse any candidate. We stay out of that. But when it comes to veterans' needs, funding the VA, funding the military, we have a very interest in having a strong military. Haven't been in, we want it strong, The more active voters and people that are members of a veteran organization tend to vote, all right? They don't all vote the same way. Honestly, some of these old guys, I sit in meetings and they're like, hey, and they're like they're spouting some ultra conservative views, not all, but conservative views, all right? And I says, well, you can't do that because I've been I'm like one of the most recent guys in the military. I retired in 2021, and a lot of these guys, kids, they don't see things as conservative as you do anymore. So not all veterans vote the same way, but a lot of us vote, and that's the impact. So, you guys should join the thing. We're not just there. for disabilities. We're not just there to help you find disabilities, but we're there to help veterans. So if we get a guy in there and he's obvious, and he's got issues, he's got some physical issues, some emotional issues. I'm not going to say mental. Mental sounds, doesn't sound good, right? It's kind of hard, but he might have mental issues because he might have had mental issues going into the service, right? But things could be made worse and everything. And we say, hey, man, you might need some help. There's help out there through the VA, register. Through the Illinois VA, there's help out there. But if you're having trouble making a living for your you got a family and you need to support your family and you're having trouble with this because of your emotional issues and everything, well, then apply for disability. And they're like, well, I didn't know I could do that or whatever. Or I was told I couldn't because I only did 6 years on active duty and someone told me somewhere that I needed 7. And we all know those people, that they hear something from some strange guy that doesn't have the actual thing, or he acts like he's got authority and he gives them the wrong information and they believe that forever. All right. I know a lot of people like that until then you tell them and you say, no, that's not true. This is the way it works.
Yes.
All right. And then we're going to go to our next commercial break for our sponsors.
Not quite.
Not quite.
Not quite yet.
About a minute before the music kicks in.
We got a minute. So listen, call in 847-931-1410. Let me see. Let me scroll up. No, nothing. Still the same guy there. Nothing on here. All right. Dalton Cooper. Oh, I thought that was Harry Cooper. And we had him as a guest the other day. 847-931-1410. Text 505-926-1410. All right. That's the Google one up there. Hit us up in the comments on the Facebook, on the YouTube Live. And after this show, I'm going to upload it to Chief Guard of the Republic, cgr.silink.net. It'll have the link to the Chief Guard of the Republic YouTube channel, where I upload all these videos minus the commercial information. So it just goes straight through. So they're there forever, or until YouTube kicks me off. So that's what we're doing, being visible. We went out on Wednesday, because it's Memorial Day weekend coming up, and we went to the middle school, and we presented the middle schoolers with the
8th grade class.
The 8th grade class. The American Legion sponsors a patriotic essay, and so all the 8th grade class there's like 112 that I read every single one of them, right? These essays. And we awarded some certificates and a gift certificate to the winner, right? And certificates to the runners-up. And it was great, right? Because they see the veterans, and the veterans are giving them something. So not only do they just get a grade from the teachers, I don't think the teachers grade this, right?
No.
But they ask the kids to do it, and all the kids do it. And so they know that there's something out there, but they're getting a little civics lessons because these contests are right there. And what you want to have is civic-minded children, young adults that are educated in civics. And so that's one of the things the American Legion helps. Then they have the younger kids, and they had a coloring contest based on the poppies that, the American Legion guys, VFW guys they're out there collecting donations to support veterans events and to support stuff within the community. So, like, where do we get the money to pay for these gift certificates for the winners? And we get that through donations from sponsorships, because our dues barely pay. We have to pay it per capita up north, and it barely pays for postage on other things. So we help. We work with donations. We work with sponsors. And these kids, listen, we go in there on Memorial Day weekend, then we go in there on Veterans Day weekend, and the looks you get from these kids when they see you just in in your American Legion uniform with your service cap on, and they are looking at you like you are a general, right?
Yeah, so they're walking by, they're high-fiving you, they're saluting you. They're so happy to see us.
Yeah, no one's flipping us off. No one's mad at us. They're all smiling, and they're all happy to see the veterans. It's like some of these pictures are real dark. If you want to see the pictures that they put in, all right, these coloring pictures, and kindergarten on up, right? They're posted on our webpage, post104.org. So yeah, there you go. Now go to the Patriot page, the Patriot tab. All right, and there's the. All right, so
there's a Schiller mobile.
Yeah, I scanned them all in. Right? I scanned them all in, and you can't put them in a document scanner because the crayons jam up the rollers. So I had to literally one page at a time, like 700 times, put those in. But I did it, and hopefully the kids get a kick out of it, and the parents get a kick out of it. And you can scroll through these. These are artwork you won't see anywhere else. All right.
And these are 3rd and 4th graders, correct?
Yeah, kindergarten, the pasted ones, that's from the kindergarten. The ones on the bigger are like 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and then we got 4th and 5th grade up there. So it's up to the 5th grade. 5th graders are pretty good. Now, if you see in the background there, we have Sergeant Schiller. That was a great picture by a kid, man. Yeah. I smiled so bright, man. I mean, the kids give you go in there. You got to see, the quality feels you get,
It's very heart-touching.
It hits you in the feels, man. Hits you in the feels. The quality feels you get from going into the school, the looks on these kids' faces, and the things the kids color and everything, and the meaning of it, and they got a little meaning in their head. They don't totally understand. They're not at that age of reason yet, but they got a little bit of the meaning of Memorial Day out of it. And the feels you get will last you all year. They'll last you all year. You'll be smiling. You'll remember back on that. So get with a veterans organization, help the community, help the community grow good kids. And I tell you, Schiller Park, okay, we're in Elgin here, but we're in the Schiller Park area. Those are some great schools.
Yes.
District 81, I'm like, man, I went to Catholic schools, right? My parents, my dad would fix the car with baling wire and masking tape.
Just so you could go to school.
Just so we could go to school. 5 kids through Catholic school was, that was a sacrifice my parents made. All right. They probably would have still sent us to Catholic school, even though, District 81 was so good. Going in there and getting that, right? Now, there's other things we do for the community, right? We're going to lay a memorial wreath, all right? And we're going to be there in uniform to do that at our Clock Tower Park.
At the Wall of Honor.
Wall of Honor. And we do the Flag Day ceremony. And just let me get this out there, all right? Again, fear, loathing, everything else, the mainstream media twists everything, like unbelievably twists it. So for the last 250 years, what has June 14th been?
Flag Day.
What else?
Army's anniversary.
The Army's birthday for the last 250 years. How old's President Trump? What is he, in 70s?
I would have to guess.
Who's been around longer, and who's been celebrating June 14th longer, the Army or President Trump?
The Army.
So this parade of the military, the Army, on June 14th is for who?
For the Army.
For the Army. It just so happens to fall on President Trump's birthday, which is pretty cool. The commander-in-chief has the same birthday as the Army. Not the Navy, not the Marine. Oh, I'm sorry to my other veterans out there, but I'm an Army guy, 38 years, all right? It's not the Navy, not the Marines, not the Coast Guard. It is the Army, but it's not the Marines, it's not the Coast Guard, it's not the Navy, it's not the Air Force, it's not the Space Force, it's not the Merchant Marine, it's the Army's birthday and the Commander-in-Chief's birthday. So we go out there on Flag Day and we support the Boy Scouts or the Scouts of America who actually run the Flag Day, and they do us great civics lessons about explaining what the meaning of the flag and how to properly dispose of the flag respectfully. All right. So we do that on Flag Day to help them. So we're not just there for benefits, for VA benefits. We're there to support the community. We're there to support other veterans ourselves, right? And so, like I said, the fundraising people out there for the poppies, you'll see them today. You know, that's one of my beefs with the higher ups in the organization. We send up our per capita, right? And then we go to collect donations to help veterans organizations on our level, on our grassroots level. And what do we get from the people higher up? How much commercial time do they buy? Nope. Yep. Nothing.
So if you see
Crickets.
these veterans on the corners asking for donations, just stop reaching into your cup holder, whatever change you have. Just every little bit helps.
Got a couple singles, even a 5-spot. You know, I was at war with a certain restaurant up in Highwood, all right, that was outside of Fort Sheridan. We used to drill at Fort Sheridan, and we would go to this restaurant. They would contract that for feed us lunch on our reserve weekend, and they did something really goofy, right? And I was at war with them. I wouldn't go there. I refused to go there when they were talking about which restaurants we're going to use for lunch. I would say absolutely not that one. Never again. And that's a lot of money for them because you got 300 guys coming in on weekend, right? It's a lot of money coming through, right? So I was totally against it. And then I'm sitting out there collecting, right? Collecting for, I think it was the Legion, like poppies. It might have been Knights of Columbus on Tootsie Roll Day, right? And here comes a guy in the most broken down wreck of a car going down Manheim Road. This thing's barely running. And he reaches in, he gets me $2, right? $2. $2. That was a lot back then, you know? And he's wearing a T-shirt from that restaurant. And I'm like, oh, war's over. Because, man, if that guy, that was like a sign from God. That's why I know God exists, because he sends me those signs. I need to see them, right? The guys out there collecting, they're not the scam guys. They're not these guys that are out there all the time that are on Social Security disability, and then they're collecting cash money out there. You know, this is the weekend, right, that we're out there collecting for veterans events, veterans organizations, to support veterans, and also to support the community.
Yeah.
So please give, right? Please give. There's other ways to give out there when your veterans are having fundraisers, because, like, we got a lot of old guys, all right? And if we had to rely on me and Bob standing out there, and maybe Russ, right, standing out there collecting, we get maybe $150 standing out there all day, 3 of us, you know? Mm-hmm. It would be like $5 an hour. So that could be because no one really carries cash anymore. So we're trying to set up other fundraiser events that are fun for the community, that bring the community together, that do things nice, right? That bring veterans together in community. You know, you see veterans events happening in your community, pancake breakfasts, you know?
Yeah, car shows.
Car shows.
You know, Franklin Park has a nice car show in September.
Yeah. You go and benefit those. Right? Go and benefit those. If you're going to take your significant other out for a drink, here, everyone thinks that in Illinois, at least, that you have to be a member of the VFW to go drink at a VFW bar. Is that true?
Not true. That is not true.
About American Legion Bar?
Not true.
Not
you
true.
don't have to be a member. Everyone is welcome.
Everyone's welcome. So we have these events, and I think people misunderstand that it's only veterans that could come. So we got to get that. I got to be better in my explanation. I have to make it more clear. It's for everybody, right? Everyone comes to this event to benefit the veteran organizations who are going to benefit the community.
Yes.
If you got a guy in the community and he's a veteran and he's down on his luck and he's suffering and everything, everyone around him is doing worse. He's dragging everyone. There's things dragging everyone down. You know, there's the Reagan era thing. A rising tide floats all boats, right? So if your economy increases, everyone's doing better. So you got to go for the economy. And they say, oh, it's only benefiting the rich. But no, it's going to benefit everyone. The same thing goes if you have a lot of people in stress, in conflict in the area, like veterans, they could bring the area down. So we're providing something to bring them back up to support the community. Am I making sense there?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was your favorite event in the last couple years? Or
Oh, I really liked the fight night we had.
that was good. That was good.
Everyone was having issues streaming it, and we had no problems. I had my son-in-law, who lives a half a block away from our post, call and say, hey, are you getting the fight? I said, yeah. He goes, I'll be right over. But then when you started the movie night, we did, our first movie was with Lauren Hardy.
Yeah, the Flying Deuces.
Flying Deuces. And that was a hoot. I said, we had a great time. That was our largest attendance, too.
It was, you know, it was. We had a good time there. And then the thing, I'm going to be legit, right? And I'm going to try to be legit because I don't want the issues, right? So we are only showing movies in the public domain, all right? So we don't have to pay royalties on this stuff. There are other people that have public showings of things that aren't exactly paying for the rights, for the digital rights, for the royalties, all right?
For that airing, right.
Okay, Dennis is on. Come on, Dennis. How you doing, Dennis from Cleveland?
Hi, Dennis.
Yeah. Originally from Cleveland. I've lived here longer in Illinois than my life over there. But I'm calling about, I heard the Flying Deuces. Is that when they joined the Foreign Legion?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I seen that recently, and I do treat myself to some old Lauren Hardy, and I just caught a couple last week that I've never seen before. And I've been around for a while. Okay?
Yep.
I hit like the KFC threshold with them, but I'm calling about what you guys are talking about. I caught the beginning of the show where you do the announcement about the show. You talk about all things. I say, yeah. I've heard you guys talk about stuff that I connect to, and I tune in every week because you do have an array of different subjects, and it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, I hope you support veterans organizations. Stop in at one of the what's the 57 Post 57's out here, right?
Yep.
So they have a bar, don't they?
They've got a bar.
Am I going to impress you? I was there last night.
Good. You know, I appreciate. Hey, I'm for all veterans. Or if 57 wants to come in here, you know, if you want to join the Legion, I'm not saying join Post 104. Please join Post 104. That's fine. But we're in Schiller Park, right?
Yeah, I gotcha.
If you got somewhere close,
that's a different country. Yeah.
Yeah, if you got somewhere close, join that. The happiness is limiting your commute. You know, if you could walk across the street and be there every day, you'll be happy with it.
That's why I moved closer to the Moose. But anyhow, I was at 57.
My sister's a Moose.
Yeah, I've been a Moose a while.
Yeah, my uncle Mitch was a Moose too.
Yeah, I went over to 57. My good buddy, my Goomba, downtown Jose. I was looking for him.
Yeah, Dennis is cutting out.
The other one's 8. And we went there for a fish. And, yeah, I dig everything you're talking about. My dad used to be in the VFW or belong, but, you know, seriously now, I even have a friend. I'm not going to call him damaged, but maybe a traumatic state. He functions. He just retired. He had a job, married, had a couple kids with the first marriage. But I tell him what you had mentioned about joining, you know, the VA. My dad used to participate with the VA, and he was blown out of a vessel. I'll probably be repeating myself to you guys. He was blown out of a vessel in the Asian Seas, or the South Seas, as they call it.
South China Sea.
Yeah, he never talked about it, but he had some traumatic things, I think, in his mind over that, and in his later life, he was at the VA at the hospital for a week or two and this and that. But they provided income, different opportunities to go and shop at their store, the government store, whatever it was. But I think what you're doing is a good service. I think a lot more people should be tuned into you to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Dennis. That means a lot to me. That's
Well,
hits me in the feels.
Okay, I get it. I like that term too, man. I'm gonna start using the feels.
Yeah, it hits me in the feels.
Yeah.
I first heard that from my son. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. How about sus for suspect? Okay.
That's a good one.
But no, you really do. I'm not just, blowing sunshine your way. You say things, or you guys have the subjects and the guests that you got some soulful logic that hits it to the point. That's my view or my opinion. But every week you're hitting it hard.
Yeah, no, I'm passionate about stuff, right?
Yeah,
I'm passionate.
It comes across.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I want to be happy. I try very hard not to mention specific names of people or things that have traumatized me.
I noticed.
And
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened and it isn't true.
True.
Right.
I get it. Well, okay, that's it. I just wanted to call in and give you my, my shout out, my opinion, and so forth. But I think, again, however you come up with your topics, they're different typically every week, but they seem to be very topical.
Thank you. I don't watch a lot of the mainstream media, but I have some really whacked out. It's nice. I'm on Facebook and stuff, right? I'm on Facebook out there, but I'm also on some alternate social media sites out there.
Careful.
Well, I'm not going to mention them.
Right.
But they are not mainstream media sites. All right, they are. I'm not, alternative, but not in a sexual way, right? They're just. They're more. It's like free-range chicken. You could have the chicken raised in the cages, or you could have free-range chicken that you're out there chasing through the fields and everything. This is like free-range chicken social media.
Right.
So it does hit the thing that I've noticed though is it has a lot of stuff you won't see on the regular social media because it doesn't answer the mainstream media's narrative. All right, it's against it. It's given an alternate view. So when something happens out there, big, right? I'm not getting it from the mainstream media. I'm getting a lot of alternate view stuff, and I see this on this thing, and then I got to go over to Facebook and see what the mainstream media's view is on it, and I'm like, wait a second. That's not, and I think for myself, I'm not thinking of these other guys, but I think for myself, I says, that's not exactly true. Like we just said about June 14th, right? Exactly. Everything I see on the mainstream media is like, oh, no, they're spending all this money to make a parade for the president.
Right.
But it's the 250, we're not going to have a 250th celebration because it falls on the president's birthday. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Really? That's like telling the military you don't matter because we care more about the feelings of some talking head on, MSNBC about his feelings that he's offended because President Trump was born on June 14th. I mean, and that's unfair to the public. That's unfair to every member of the U.S. Army, every member that's ever served in the U.S. Army. It's absolutely unfair to degrade that day because it happens to be the president's birthday. To spin a narrative.
Spot on, Mike. I get it. I understand all that. The alternative view, it's interesting because I don't really dig up that stuff, but when I hear it, I go, I like it because it's just another thought that you need to consider.
Yep. And, thank you, Dennis. See you next week.
Thank you very kindly. Have a good,
All right.
enjoy the day. I'm going over to Bluff City Boulevard like I go every year. I take my best friend growing up's picture that went to Vietnam because some judge said, hey, you either go to jail or you go to Vietnam. I went to Vietnam, but he never came back alive.
Yeah, say hello to your friend for me too, Dennis, all right?
Yeah, same here.
Thank you very
You
much.
want to mention his name?
Ronald Morgan,
Ronald Morgan.
born in Nashville, Tennessee. Parents came up north to Cleveland. He grew up, went to school with me for about 8 years. He's just a happy-go-lucky, good-looking guy. We were pals. And then all of a sudden, some small fight in the street, and they had to go to court, and that's what they did. It's crazy to me in my life. Anyhow, I got more stories about that for another day.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Peace out, Dennis.
Bye.
Peace out, Ronald Morgan. Rest in peace.
Yes.
One of our veterans, all right, gave his
got
life
it.
for our freedoms. All right.
U.S. Marine. Thank you.
USMC.
USMC, yes, sir.
All right.